The movie begins with Anne, a lawyer, speaking with her client, a victim of abuse. She offers reassurance and guidance, urging her client to remain composed and answer all court questions honestly. Afterward, Pierre tells Anne that Theo's mother, Rebecca, called to say Theo has been detained again after a conflict with his math teacher. Pierre adds that he can't take their daughters to Geneva because he needs to handle Theo's situation. So, he asks Anne to take them instead. Later, Anne confides in her friend, Mina, about Theo. She explains that her stepson will be staying with them, as Pierre hopes it will help them grow closer. Meanwhile, a man arrives with a child named Lucas for Mina. Though clearly irritated, Mina takes Lucas and firmly tells him to behave, reminding him she has other customers. When Anne offers to take Lucas along with her daughters, Mina refuses. At home, Anne finds the house in disarray and starts tidying up. While cleaning, she encounters Theo in the bathroom, drying his hair. She gently reminds him to keep his belongings organized, pointing out the ample closet space in his room.
Encore un an et ciao Berthe.
Ciao Berthe.
C'est la cambrousse ici.
Later that day, the family gathers for a meal. Anne's daughters, full of curiosity, ask why Theo hadn't lived with them before, and why Anne seemed quiet, focusing on her food instead of joining the conversation. Pierre takes on the task of answering their questions, just as Theo walks into the room. Theo mentions he doesn't eat meat, prompting Angela, one of Anne's daughters, to excitedly bring him a gift. She gifts him a handmade keychain wrapped by Serena. Theo thanks both girls warmly for their thoughtful gesture. Later, Anne is seen stepping out of her car while making a call. Inside, Theo plays with Serena, who is teaching him something new. When Anne enters, Theo quickly leaves the room. That evening, Pierre comes home late. As he eats, he and Anne talk quietly. Pierre vents about work stress, drinking heavily as he speaks. Anne grows concerned as he becomes visibly drunk. She helps Pierre to their room, where they continue talking. Pierre reveals that Theo once accused him of adopting the girls out of guilt for not being in his life. Anne reassures him, mentioning how well Theo is bonding with her daughters. The couple shares a rare moment of closeness. The next day, Pierre enters Theo's room and catches him smoking. Firmly but calmly, he asks Theo not to smoke indoors, reminding him they're trying to make him feel at home, and it would only be fair for Theo to respect the house rules in return.
Ok, j'ai compris, tu peux me lâcher là, je suis occupé.
À quoi?
Theo, irritated, asks his father to leave, saying he's busy. But Pierre doesn't back down. He points out that Theo has exams at the end of the year and expresses frustration that all he sees his son doing is playing video games instead of focusing on his studies. Pierre, fed up with Theo's defiance, confiscates his phone, escalating the tension. Enraged, Theo lashes out, insulting his father.
D'abord,
Rends-moi ça, putain, rends-moi ça, je t'ai dit.
Frustrated and hurt, Pierre leaves the room in silence. Later, Anne waits outside Mina's store, and Mina joins her in the car. They drive to Anne's house together. Upon arriving, Anne is shocked to see the house in chaos, furniture overturned, and belongings scattered everywhere. She and Mina start tidying up, trying to make sense of the mess. Anne calls Pierre to tell him about the break-in and shares her disbelief. While she's on the phone, Theo walks in and is equally stunned by the state of the house. Anne explains what happened and suggests he check his room for anything missing. Still in shock, Theo goes to investigate. Mina, meanwhile, comments that Theo didn't even acknowledge her. Later, at Anne's office, she meets with a client, Sarah. Anne shares the good news that the children's court has ruled in Sarah's favor, allowing her to live with her father. Sarah is overjoyed by the update.
Le juge des enfants a décidé que tu pouvais retourner vivre chez ton père.
Back home, Anne is at home doing laundry when she discovers a keychain in Theo's pocket. Suspicious, she confronts him, asking how her key ended up in his possession. Theo, feeling cornered, tries to deflect Anne's questions by accusing her of snooping through his belongings. However, Anne refuses to be sidetracked and directly asks him where the stolen items are. Theo denies all accusations, insisting he has nothing to do with it. Frustrated but determined to maintain peace, Anne tells him she won't inform Pierre about the situation, if he cooperates and starts behaving better in the house. Later, as Anne gathers beach gear, Theo unexpectedly steps in to help. Surprised by his gesture, she invites him to join her for a swim. To her relief, he agrees without hesitation, hinting at a rare moment of connection.
On part se baigner avec les filles, tu veux venir?
At the beach, the family shares a joyful day together. Theo plays enthusiastically with the girls, who are thrilled by his attention. On the way home, the girls excitedly ask Theo to join them for horseback riding the next day. Though Theo admits he doesn't know how to ride, he agrees to give it a try. When they arrive home, both Anne and Theo carry the sleeping girls inside. The next day, Anne and Theo sit together, chatting while he smokes. She asks when he started smoking, and Theo recalls picking up the habit at age 12 with his mother. Anne changes the subject, suggesting he invite some friends over if he'd like. Theo, however, admits he doesn't have any friends. Their conversation continues, shifting between lighthearted jokes and deeper topics, creating a rare moment of connection filled with laughter and understanding.
Théo, refais-moi un tatouage.
Ah non, sûrement pas.
The next day, Theo surprises everyone by bringing a girl named Amanda to the house. Without much explanation, he takes her straight to his room. Meanwhile, Anne and Pierre attend an event, but Anne quickly grows bored and decides to step away. She finds a quiet spot on the stairs, seeking some privacy. As she sits there, Theo appears, wheeling his scooter out of the garage. Noticing Anne alone, he mentions he's heading out to buy cigarettes and casually asks if she'd like to join him. To his surprise, Anne agrees without hesitation. Their outing leads them to a bar, where they pause to enjoy some drinks, breaking the usual tension between them. While they talked at the bar, Anne curiously asked Theo about Amanda, wondering if she still was his girlfriend. Theo replied nonchalantly, saying that he and Amanda lived their own separate lives. Turning the conversation around, Theo asked Anne if her love for Pierre was genuine. Anne quickly dismissed the question, unwilling to entertain it.
Moi et ton père.
Mon père et toi, c'est le grand amour.
When Anne returned home, she found Pierre visibly concerned. He asked where she had been, and Anne explained that she needed some fresh air and decided to take a walk. Pierre, however, was upset that she had left the gathering while they still had guests. Frustrated, he departed to another room. The next day, Mina visited Anne's house, bringing Lucas along. While the two women engaged in a lively conversation, Theo spent time with the three children, keeping them entertained and laughing throughout the visit. That night, Anne enters Theo's room and sits on his bed, casually curious about what he's watching on his phone. However, their interaction takes an inappropriate turn as they share a private and intimate moment. Overcome with guilt afterward, Anne is visibly distressed by what happened. The next day, Anne tells Pierre she bought Theo a computer to keep him off his phone. Pierre isn't happy and claims he could have bought it, but Anne insists she doesn't need his permission, just like no one consults her about household tasks.
Au fait, j'ai acheté un nouvel ordinateur pour Théo.
Later, Theo and Anne chat casually. He asks about her personal life, which she answers, but refuses to talk about her first relationship despite his persistence. Although they both know it's wrong, the tension between them grows as their mutual attraction becomes harder to ignore. Afterward, Anne decides to check on Sarah. When she arrives at Sarah's house, she's met with a startling reaction. Sarah, clearly frightened, asks her to leave immediately. Sensing something is wrong, Anne quickly leaves, but later makes a call to gather more information about Sarah's situation. Meanwhile, preparations are underway for Serena's birthday party, adding a lighter tone to the unfolding drama. As Anne busily decorates for Serena's birthday party, Theo continues to behave flirtatiously. Frustrated, Anne firmly tells him to stop.
T'avais surtout plus de continuer à me faire chier.
The party soon fills with guests, including Mina, who decides to leave abruptly when she witnesses Anne and Theo kissing and flirting in a secluded moment. Despite the awkward incident, the party carries on, full of laughter and fun, and ends on a high note for the rest of the guests. The next day, Anne decides it's time to confront Theo about their inappropriate behavior, where she tells him she is determined to end whatever has been happening between them. Theo, however, is upset, accusing Anne of being cold and unfair. Despite his frustration, he promises to keep their affair a secret, even from Pierre. Angry and hurt, Theo storms off, leaving Anne unsettled.
Tu verras, elle sera tellement jalouse quand j'aurai des copines super roulées. J'aurais même plus envie de toi.
Later, Anne joins Pierre at the table while he eats, her nerves on edge as he mentions that Mina called him. Panic flickers through her, but relief washes over her when she realizes Mina didn't reveal anything about what she saw. Instead, Pierre shares his thoughts about wanting to take Theo under his wing and spend more time together as father and son. Afterward, Pierre's behavior begins to shift, leaving Anne suspicious. She starts to sense that Theo might have told Pierre about their secret. That evening, Pierre confronts Anne directly, accusing her of having an inappropriate relationship with Theo. Anne denies it and starts packing her clothes, feigning innocence.
Pour croire les délires d'un gamin dérangé que tu connais à peine.
She tells Pierre that she only cares about him and Theo, and, in a bid to shift the focus, reveals that the robbery from before was Theo's doing. She admits she didn't tell him earlier because she had hoped Theo would change. Pierre, though, upset, chooses to believe her and lets the matter drop. The next day, the three of them sit together, and Anne directly confronts Theo, demanding evidence to prove he wasn't responsible for the robbery. Theo, knowing he can't provide proof, storms off angrily. On Christmas Day, Sarah visits Anne to give her a thoughtful present, expressing gratitude for Anne's support. Later, Mina also stops by with Lucas, telling Anne that she has forgiven her. The day ends on a seemingly positive note when Pierre gives Anne a bracelet as a gift. The following morning, Anne sits in Theo's lawyer's office, discussing details and requesting an agreement to be finalized and placed on her desk. Theo, seemingly defeated and silent, sits quietly, offering no input during the conversation. Later that night, Anne is startled by a noise outside her house. Concerned, she gets up to investigate and finds Leo lingering nearby. She confronts him, asking why he's there. Theo, clearly intoxicated, claims he came to visit her. Despite his drunken state, he begins making seductive advances towards her. Initially, Anne resists, but eventually, she gives in.
Je croyais qu'on avait un accord.
On n'a pas de putain d'accord.
And they share another intimate encounter. At the end, Anne leaves Theo's room and returns to her husband. Theo tells Pierre that Theo had stopped by while drunk and assures him she arranged for a cab to take Theo away. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.